Every single pink flamingo you have ever seen in your entire life was born the color of a wet paper towel.
Oh, yeah, just totally gray, dull, and honestly looking a little bit like a, a tiny storm cloud on stilts.
Right, and when I found that out in the stack of sources we pulled for this deep dive, I mean, my jaw just hit the floor.
It is a pretty wild realization.
Because you see that hot pink bird on, pool floaties and neon signs and summer shirts, and you just assume that's how they are, like genetically.
Exactly, you think it's baked in.
But it turns out flamingos are the only creatures on Earth walking around with an edible dye job. The pink isn't built into their DNA at all. It is strictly a loan.
Yep, and if they stop paying that loan back, the color just completely vanishes.
It's blowing my mind. So our mission today in this deep dive, and we are pulling from avian biology journals, wildlife ecology studies, even daily dietary logs from zookeepers, is to figure out exactly how these birds pull off this incredible cosmetic heist.
Because the mechanisms they use to literally, turn their lunch into their own skin, it's far more sophisticated than just the old saying of, you are what you eat.
Right. So we have to start with the babies, because the logic of this just feels entirely backward at first.
Oh, completely backward.
We picture flamingos as this ultimate pink icon, but the chicks hatch covered in this saggy, oatmeal-colored down.
It's not a great look for them, honestly.
No. My first thought was that maybe they're just undercooked or something, like they need a few weeks in the sun to ripen up.
Right, a lot of people assume the gray is just this default unfinished state, like a draft version of a bird.
Yes, exactly.
But looking at the evolutionary biology and the sources, that gray coloring is actually highly functional. Pigment literally changes the structural integrity of a feather.
Wait, really? The color makes a physical difference?
Yeah. Neon pink feathers, it turns out, are actually more fragile. They degrade a lot faster under intense sunlight.
Oh,
So the gray down provides a much tougher, more resilient coat. It helps keep the chick's rapidly growing body protected from the harsh UV rays out on the salt flats they live on.
that makes so much sense.
Right, and it just holds up better against the general wear and tear of being a clumsy baby bird.
Okay, so that reframes things completely for me. It's not a broken pink flamingo. It's a fully functional gray animal doing exactly what it needs to do to survive those early weeks.
Precisely.
It actually reminds me of how a caterpillar isn't like a defective butterfly, It's just in its armored tank phase before it gets all flashy.
That is a perfect way to look at it.
But that leaves a pretty massive gap. Like, if they are structurally designed to be gray for survival, how on earth does the pink get introduced? Because a newborn chick isn't exactly out there hunting for itself on day one.
No, definitely not. So the transition begins with the parents, and it happens through a mechanism that sounds like pure science fiction, honestly.
I know where this is going, and I am still horrified by it.
When a baby flamingo hatches, the parents feed it something called crop milk.
Okay, I have to pause you right here. Because when I read the phrase crop milk in the research, I pictured, regular milk, like mammalian milk, something white, maybe a bit thicker.
Sure, that's what anyone would think.
But the reality is just so much more visceral. This isn't coming from a mammary gland. This is a secretion coming directly out of the parents' digestive tracts, specifically their upper throats.
Yeah, and both the male and the female produce it, actually.
Which is wild.
Right. A hormone called prolactin triggers the lining of their esophagus to essentially shed and liquidize. It turns into this fat-rich, nutrient-dense fluid. And as you hinted at, it is definitely not white.
It is deep, dark red. Like, the field descriptions compare it to beet juice.
Yeah.
You have these elegant pink birds leaning over and just pouring a blood-red fluid out of their throats directly into their baby's mouth. I mean, it sounds like a horror movie.
It totally does, but the biology behind it is just brilliant.
Oh, it really is.
Because that liquid is preloaded with the exact pigment that will eventually trigger the chick's color change.
So it's basically nature's version of spiking baby food with hair dye.
That is exactly what it is. That red throat secretion is a highly concentrated pigment delivery system.
Wow.
The parents are basically taking the biological raw materials they've stored up and transferring them directly to the chick. It primes the baby's system for the diet it will eventually consume on its own.
Okay, but crop milk only lasts for the first few weeks of a chick's life, right?
Right, just to get them started.
So if the pink isn't coded into their genes, and the parents eventually stop feeding them this crazy throat secretion, how do they sustain that neon color for the next 20 or 30 years in the wild?
Well, to answer that, we have to look at the environment itself. Flamingos thrive in some of the most extreme aquatic habitats on Earth.
Yeah, we're talking about the shallow, incredibly salty, alkaline lakes and lagoons.
Exactly. And thriving in those waters is a specific type of microscopic algae. This algae produces high levels of a pigment compound called a carotenoid, specifically one called astaxanthin.
Okay, I want to make sure we translate that for everyone listening because astaxanthin sounds like a prescription medication you'd see on a late-night commercial.
It does sound pretty clinical.
But it's really just a natural dye, right?
Yeah.
The research compared it to the exact same family of chemical compounds that makes carrots orange or makes autumn leaves turn red.
Yeah, that's spot on.
It's basically a built-in color mechanism manufactured by the plant to protect itself from the sun.
That's a perfect analogy. The algae creates this red-orange pigment as a sort of chemical sunscreen, so it can survive the intense UV light reflecting off those shallow salt lakes.
So it's just a survival tool for the algae.
Exactly. Now enter the brine shrimp and the small water insects. They swim around grazing on this algae all day long.
And because they eat so much of it, the shrimp start accumulating that sunscreen in their own tiny bodies. Like, they literally become little swimming bags of pigment.
Right? It's bioaccumulation in action.
Yeah.
The pigment concentrates as it moves up the food chain.
Okay, so then the flamingo swoops in, dips its specialized curved beak into the water, and just filters out thousands of these tiny shrimp and bugs.
Meal after meal, day after day.
The audacity of it is just so brilliant to me. I mean, think about it. The algae does all the hard work of manufacturing the color to survive.
Yep.
The shrimp eat the algae and store the color, and then the flamingo eats the shrimp and just steals the aesthetic.
It's a complete food chain heist.
It really is. It's like borrowing your friend's really expensive leather jacket because it looks better on you and then just never giving it back.
And the scope of this heist is even more impressive when you look at it globally.
How so?
Well, there are 6 different species of flamingos spread across the world,
Yeah.
from the Andes Mountains in South America to the Rift Valley in Africa.
Right.
And the fossil record suggests that all 6 species independently evolved this exact same trick to exploit these extreme environments.
Wait, all of them figured it out
Yeah.
separately?
Yeah. They might be eating a slightly different local species of shrimp, or maybe a different strain of algae, but the underlying chemical mechanism is totally identical.
That is wild. But the mechanism itself is what I couldn't quite wrap my head around at first.
Why is that?
Because, okay, if I sit on my couch and eat 3 pounds of carrots a day, I'm not going to turn into a giant orange human. Our digestive systems just break that stuff down.
Well, mostly, yeah.
So if a flamingo is swallowing thousands of pigment-loaded shrimp, why doesn't it just get digested and expelled? How does the color actually get from their stomach to their feathers?
That is where the flamingo's liver steps in. It acts as a highly specialized chemical processing plant.
Okay, the liver.
Yeah, when the flamingo digests the shrimp, the astaxanthin and other carotenoids don't just pass through. The liver isolates these fat-soluble pigments and metabolizes them.
Okay.
And get this, some flamingos actually eat yellow pigments, and their liver chemically converts them into the heavier pink and red pigments.
Wait, seriously. So the liver is actively upgrading the dye, like it takes in the cheap yellow stuff and manufactures the premium hot pink.
Precisely. It's doing the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Then, the liver binds these concentrated red and pink pigments to fat molecules.
Okay, so the fat molecules are like, what, little transport vehicles?
Exactly. Think of them as tiny biological taxis. They carry the pigment through the bloodstream, completely bypassing the internal organs, and deliver it directly to the skin, the beak, and the feather follicles.
That is incredible.
And as a new feather grows out of the follicle, the pigment crystallizes inside it. The bird is literally being painted from the inside out.
Wow. That just completely redefines the idea of a makeover. And it's not an overnight process either, right?
And not at all.
Because the sources point out that it takes a solid 2 to 3 years of this relentless internal painting to take a gray chick and turn it into a hot pink adult.
Yet the sheer volume of calories required is staggering. You are looking at 2 to 3 years of filtering hundreds of thousands of shrimp, metabolizing those carotenoids, and depositing them into the feathers.
Which introduces a whole new layer of social dynamics to the flock. Because, I mean, if it takes 3 years of nonstop, successful hunting to turn that blinding traffic cone pink, you can't fake it.
No, you really can't.
The flamingo can't just wake up and decide to look brighter today. The saturation of their feathers is a literal running total of their caloric intake.
Exactly. Behavioral ecologists actually refer to this as an honest signal.
An honest signal.
Yeah. When an animal displays a trait that is physically impossible to fake because of how much energy it requires, it acts as a verifiable billboard for their genetic and physical fitness.
So a blazing hot pink flamingo is just broadcasting an undeniable message to the entire flock. Like, I am an exceptional hunter. I have an incredibly robust immune system. I am thriving.
Yep, it's a walking report card.
A walking report card. And that report card dictates everything about their social structure, right? Especially when it comes to mating.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we've all seen footage of those massive flamingo group dances, hundreds of them marching, turning their heads in unison, moving like a giant pink flash mob.
Right, and during those courtship displays, the birds are constantly assessing each other's honest signals.
Looking at the report cards.
Exactly. The brightest, most vividly pigmented birds immediately draw attention. They're demonstrating that they possess the skills and the energy to be excellent partners, so they pair up really quickly.
And the paler ones.
The paler birds, unfortunately, often struggle to find mates. They just go home alone.
It's a brutal dating scene. I mean, imagine if human interactions worked that way. You walk into a dinner party and your skin tone instantly broadcasts your exact credit score, your diet, and how well you've managed your stress for the last 3 years.
That sounds exhausting.
Right. You'd walk in slightly pale, and everyone would immediately know you've been eating cereal for dinner and forgetting to sleep. There's just no hiding.
The transparency of it is ruthless.
Yeah.
But, the most revealing part of this dynamic isn't actually the bright young birds at the center of the dance.
No.
It's the pale ones on the periphery.
Okay. Yes, let's talk about this. Because this was the part of the research that forced me to completely reevaluate everything I thought I knew about these birds.
It really flips your perspective.
It does, because you naturally assume the pale, washed-out flamingos are the ones failing at life. You assume they're sick, or they're just terrible hunters. But the data shows that the palest, most drained-looking birds in the flock are often the parents.
Yeah. Raising a chick in those harsh environments requires just a monumental transfer of resources.
Right.
The parents are spending all their time guarding the nest, defending against predators, and, as we discussed earlier, physically liquidizing their own energy reserves to create that crop milk.
They're pouring all of their caloric energy into their baby. And because the pink color is entirely dependent on them having excess energy to process that pigment, well, when they stop focusing on themselves, the color stops going to their feathers.
Exactly. It literally drains away as their old feathers fall out and new ones grow in without the dye.
Because they just cannot maintain the incredible foraging required to keep themselves vibrant pink while simultaneously keeping a chick alive.
It is a biological trade-off.
Yeah.
They sacrifice their honest signal of vitality to ensure the survival of their offspring.
It's so touching. A tired flamingo parent is quite literally fading away because they gave all of their color to that little gray baby.
It's very poignant.
It is deeply, profoundly human. It's bittersweet. You look at a faded flamingo now and you don't see a loser in the dating pool. You see an exhausted parent who has given everything they have to their kid.
It completely changes the way you look at a flock, doesn't it?
It changes everything. It changes a massive flock of birds from just a pretty landscape into a living visual map of everyone's exact life stage.
It's a perfect visualization of energy flow within a population. But, knowing how delicate this balance is, it naturally begs the question of what happens when you alter the environment.
Right, because if the color is merely a receipt of a highly specific local diet, what happens when a flamingo is moved into captivity, like a wildlife park or a zoo?
Well, zoos aren't built on top of high-altitude alkaline salt lakes.
Exactly. If you take away the specialized algae and the brine shrimp, the whole system should just collapse.
And historically it did. Early attempts to keep flamingos in captivity resulted in the birds losing their color entirely.
Wow.
With no dietary astaxanthin to process, as they molted, their new feathers just grew in pure white, or a dull, dusty gray.
Oh, man. Imagine taking your kids to the zoo to see the majestic flamingos, and they just look like giant, confused seagulls standing on one leg.
It definitely ruins the magic.
The illusion completely breaks. It proves that the color was never permanently stored inside the bird to begin with.
The zoo environment really reveals the pink for what it truly is. It's temporary. It's not like a tattoo or a coat of paint that dries and remains. It is an ongoing metabolic process.
It is a biological spray tan.
Yes.
It's a spray tan that has to be constantly reapplied from the inside out. If you stop eating the pigment, the tan fades and you just revert back to your factory settings.
That's a great way to put it.
So how do modern zookeepers solve this? They can't possibly fly in tons of live brine shrimp every single day.
No, they don't do that. Instead, zookeepers have to essentially play the role of the algae.
Okay.
They use synthetic or extracted carotenoids, often formulated into specialized pellets. And adding this color supplement to the flamingo's daily feed is a mandatory, non-negotiable chore.
Like, they actually log it.
Oh yeah, it is tracked on keeper logs just as rigorously as medication.
I have to feed the flamingos their color today. That is just wild to think about. One of the most recognizable animals on the planet, an animal whose entire cultural identity is based on being pink, is constantly hanging on by a thread.
Or at least hanging on by a daily scoop of dietary supplements.
Seriously, it just highlights the fragility of their physical identity. Yeah. We view them as so robustly colorful, but they are entirely at the mercy of their local food web to maintain that appearance.
Now, based on everything we've talked about so far, you're probably thinking we have the whole mystery solved, right?
Well, yeah. The pink is a side effect of a strict diet. It's a natural consequence of bioaccumulation. The flamingo is just a passive canvas for the food it eats.
That is the logical conclusion. The diet provides the pigment, the liver processes it, the feathers display it. A nice closed mechanical loop.
The behavioral ecology studies we looked at drop a massive twist right here.
They really do.
Because flamingos don't just passively wait around for their food to dye them pink. Some of them actively take matters into their own hands to rig the system.
This specific behavior completely upends the idea that they are just passive participants in their own coloration.
Yeah.
It introduces this element of agency that you rarely see in avian biology.
It is so crazy. So during the build-up to breeding season, when all those birds are getting ready for that brutal, judgmental flash mob dance, some wild flamingos will reach back to a specialized organ near the base of their tail. It's called the uropygial gland.
Now, most birds have this gland, actually. They use it to secrete oil to waterproof their feathers.
Right, but the flamingo does something extra.
Oh, way extra. During this specific time of year, they manage to concentrate high levels of carotenoid pigments directly into the oil produced by that gland.
They literally manufacture their own pink serum.
Yep.
And then they take their beak, harvest that colored oil, and physically rub it all over their neck, breast, and back feathers.
They're purposely painting themselves.
It is a wild animal doing a self-glam contouring routine before a night out at the club.
It's basically exactly that.
I was floored by this when I read it. They are literally doing their makeup. And because it's oil sitting on the outside of the feather, if they stop applying it, that extra glow just fades away in a few days under the sun.
Right. Exactly. The topical application requires constant daily upkeep, which I know might sound like simple vanity to us, but evolutionary biologists see it as the ultimate proof of fitness.
Okay, but how does spending hours doing your makeup prove you're a good mate?
Well, think about the energy economy we discussed earlier. We already know that just staying pink internally requires an exhausting amount of foraging.
Right, tons of shrimp.
So if a bird has the excess energy to hunt all day, process the pigment internally, and still has the physical flexibility, the time, and the caloric surplus to manually extract oil and groom it into its feathers for hours, I mean, that bird is an absolute powerhouse.
Okay. So it's not just look how pink I am. It's I am so well-fed, so healthy, and so ridiculously energetic that I have 3 spare hours today just to touch up my highlights so you notice me.
It is the pinnacle of the honest signal. It demonstrates that they are not just surviving their harsh environment, they have completely mastered it. It's an advertisement of overwhelming vitality.
So the pink was never just an accident of diet. It's diet plus an incredibly complex internal chemistry plus a heavy dose of deliberate vanity.
A very heavy dose.
They steal their looks from the food chain. They stress over their dating profiles. They are utterly exhausted by their kids. And they do a full cosmetic touch-up before a big date. They're just so much more relatable than I ever could have guessed.
It really serves as a brilliant reminder that nature is rarely just a passive machine. There is strategy, there is behavioral nuance, and there's immense effort behind the things we often dismiss as simple aesthetics.
It changes everything about how you look at them. So the next time you see a flamingo, whether it's printed on a beach towel or standing quietly in a zoo enclosure, I don't want you to just see a pink bird.
No, you have to look past the color as a static trait.
Because that color is a living, breathing ledger. It is a visible record of every single shrimp, every mouthful of algae, every successful hunt, and every worn-out day that bird has lived through.
It really is.
Somewhere out there right now, a flamingo is standing in salty, shallow water, literally turning its lunch into its own skin.
And somewhere nearby, there's a tired, pale flamingo parent.
Standing just a little bit less pink today, because it gave everything it had to a small gray chick that hasn't even figured out what color it's about to become.
It's a profound image, and it really makes you wonder about the signals we rely on in our own lives.
You know, it's funny you mention that because it leaves me with one final thought that I cannot shake from this research.
What's that?
While the flamingo uses this incredible chemistry to prove its health, but humans, we saw this trick and we immediately figured out how to cheat it.
Oh, the salmon.
Yes! If you go to the grocery store right now and look at farm-raised salmon, it's bright pink, but farm-raised salmon don't eat wild crustaceans. Left on their own, their flesh is naturally gray.
Just like the flamingos.
Exactly. But the agriculture industry knows that we associate pink salmon with health and freshness. It's our own version of an honest signal. So what do?
They synthesize it.
They literally synthesize astaxanthin in laboratories, the exact same compound the flamingo eats, and they feed it to the salmon in pellets just to dye their flesh pink before they hit the supermarket.
We hacked the honest signal.
We absolutely did. We borrowed the flamingo's billion-year-old evolutionary trick just so we wouldn't have to buy gray fish. Next time you're at the seafood counter, think about that. We are all just chasing the pink.